The story begins with a strange man walking towards a diner in the middle of the night, but he was carrying something that resembles a person's spine. Stan, a man with brown hair and glasses, was drinking his coffee and reading a book, while everyone else was having a good time. The man walks inside and slams the human remains on the counter, but he didn't say anything and just stood there covered in blood. Jim, the chef, confronts him, thinking this is some kind of joke. The strange man gets violent and attacks him, biting his nose right off and causing a lot of damage. Cindy, the waitress, hits him over the head with the coffee mug, which causes him to let go and drop on the ground. Things happen so fast and the people didn't even get a chance to process everything, when out of nowhere, a police car crashes into a nearby building. The car catches fire, but 2 people were still trapped inside, burning alive. The people from the diner were too stunned to even react and had no idea what was going on. As if things weren't bad enough, a plane was coming crashing down, causing a loud noise that was deafening. There were more crazy people inside the airplane attacking the pilots and causing the plane to crash. Just before the crash, there is a blinding white light which lights the sky and forces everyone to cover their eyes. Kelly, one of the girls from the diner, was looking straight at the light, causing her to go completely blind as she screams in horror. The light was caused by detonation of a nuclear bomb, but luckily it was outside the town. This quiet night turned into a horrific event that left its people traumatized and shocked. 8 months later, Stan and Cindy were up on the hills, checking if a nearby town was safe to go through. They were running low on supplies and needed to find some food. But sadly, the entire town was overrun with infected people. The 2 of them, together with a bunch of other people, have formed a small group and have been trying to survive out in the open, constantly moving from one place to another. They find shelter inside a big tunnel, and Joel, a man who survived together with his wife, thinks he found a weapon against the infected. During one of his encounters with them, he was able to survive because his attacker was covered in salt. He thinks salt might be their weak point and wants to use it, but Kelly thinks it's a bad idea and might have been just a coincidence. After what happened at the diner, Stan, Kelly, and Thomas made a run for it, but they got trapped in a neighborhood surrounded on all corners. One of the infected saw them and instantly attacked them, shouting curse words and threatening them. Luckily, Cindy comes to their rescue and runs over the crazy woman with her car. She came back to pick up her son from the neighbors and saw the 3 of them, so she decided to help them. Cindy is a tough woman. Her husband abused her in the past and burned her ear off. She doesn't go down without a fight. In the present, the group is woken up by the sound of Crossed walking through the forest. Everyone makes a run for it going up the hill, but Joel and his family are left behind. Joel uses a bag of salt and makes a circle around his family, believing that this will keep them safe. Unfortunately, Kelly was right and his idea was stupid. The salt didn't work and the Crossed savagely attacked them, while Joel's wife calls him stupid for thinking this would work. The group was able to escape and found shelter in an abandoned house. They met a guy named Randall, who came all the way from New York while trying to escape the Crossed. He says that New York is flooded because the city needs to be pumped 24/7 to clear the water, and since this whole thing began, there haven't been any people left to do the job. Texas was in bad shape as well. Oil refineries have gone up in flames and burned the entire region. He wants to go to Alaska, thinking there are fewer people there, so fewer chances of running into infected people. Canada has been overrun already. They thought the Crossed were only in the United States, but they were wrong. During his travels, Randall saw a group of the Crossed mutilating one of their own, and he suspects they were doing that because there were no other people around. One of the men who was keeping watch went a bit further from the group and was spotted by some Crossed in the forest. Cindy tells everyone to pack their things because they are leaving in 2 minutes. While climbing a nearby hill, Randall gets shot in the shoulder and drops his gun. Luckily, he wasn't killed, and the group manages to escape by hiding in the forest nearby. During the night, he has severe pains and goes into a state of shock, even though the bullet didn't hit any arteries and there was no sign of infection. In just a couple of hours, he goes into a coma and Stan decides to go back to the house to see if the Crossed were still there. He and Cindy spy on them from a distance and catch them playing the biscuit game. They were all naked and pleasuring themselves, while Stan remarks that the end goal is to finish on a biscuit. Whoever arrives last gets to eat the biscuit, but Cindy doesn't see any biscuit. In fact, they were using bullets to spread their infection, which prompts her to run back to the group. The reason Randall was in a coma was because he got infected just like the others, and he was now turned into one of them. He wakes up and viciously attacks one of them, and then runs after Kelly, trying to take advantage of her. Luckily, Cindy returns and blasts him straight in the face with her rifle, ending him on the spot. Now they know how the Crossed managed to infect Randall and think they should head to Alaska. The group wanders into a nearby town that was overrun with the Crossed. They hide behind abandoned cars, hoping they wouldn't see them, and they are lucky because they were hunting someone else. Eventually, the Crossed leave the area, but the group stays hidden for another 4 hours, just to be sure they're safe. They decide to check the town for supplies, but the place was already picked clean before they got here. One of the men steps inside a trap and is unable to move, while someone else shoots him with an arrow. The group reacts fast and shoots towards the top of a building where a woman was hiding. She falls from the second floor and hits the ground below, but out of nowhere, a group of kids come running out, asking them to leave her alone. The woman was still alive but badly injured, and she begs the group not to hurt the kids. Ann Cook used to be their kindergarten teacher when the outbreak began, and she took them under her wing, helping them survive all this time. When the food ran out, she taught the kids how to set traps and attack lonely groups, trying to steal their food and supplies. She's not proud of the things she had to do to survive, but there was no other option. When the outbreak began, people started turning into the crossed and the whole country went into chaos. Kelly got close to Thomas and she asked him if he would take care of her, since she got blinded during the nuclear explosion at the start. They met another group of people who were led and organized by a deputy. The cop had a prisoner locked inside his car, but he didn't want to go into details about his identity or what he had done. In the present, the people have a group meeting, trying to figure out what to do about the kids. They are too young to take them all the way to Alaska, and Cindy thinks they are dangerous. They have killed many people in order to survive. The group decides to abandon them here, hoping that maybe they will eventually find a way to survive on their own. But before leaving, Cindy goes back inside to do something. She thinks they are too dangerous to be left alive, and the things they had to do will probably turn them into monsters. She takes her pistol out and shoots them in their sleep, but she wasn't alone. Stan comes to help finish them off, and she appreciates the help. From this moment on, Stan knew the world had changed, and it will never go back to what it used to be. The group found shelter in a nearby building, trying to rest while they plotted their next move. Stan couldn't get over the fact that he and Cindy killed a bunch of children, and even though there was no other way, he feels terrible about it. Cindy doesn't want him to think there is something going on between them, claiming there is no we. The next day they see some crossed on top of 2 trucks in the middle of the city, but they weren't alone. They captured a group of people and were torturing them for pleasure, but something was off. Usually the crossed act like savage animals, quickly violating their prisoners and then brutally killing them, but this group wasn't in a hurry. They were taking their time. They were torturing the people slowly, as if they wanted to enjoy it for much longer. In the past, the deputy says he took one of them prisoners and kept it locked inside his car because it knew stuff about his wife. Cindy isn't so sure about it, claiming they don't know shit, but it rather saw his wedding ring and assumed he was married, so he tried messing with his mind, claiming he violated her. Eventually, the deputy loses it and goes inside the car, threatening to end him, but the crazy man spits in his face, hitting him straight in the eyes. Cindy takes her pistol out and finishes the job, ending the man in the back seat, but the damage was done. The virus spreads from person to person, either by bite or by an exchange of fluids. The saliva that hit the deputy in the eyes quickly made its effect, and he was already infected. He turned into a crossed and wanted to attack them, but Cindy ended him as well. In the present, the group talks about the crossed's ability to learn and adapt, and Kelly thinks they're just like people, but different and more savage. During the night, they decide to leave the city, but the only way out is by crossing a nearby bridge, which was partially destroyed. One of the infected overhears them and alerts the others, and the hunt begins. Stan and Cindy are the first to cross, while providing cover fire for the others to do the same. However, Kelly is blind and moves a lot slower compared to the rest, which delays the crossing. Sheena is the last one left behind, but when she tries to cross, the piece of metal falls on the ground and she's left stranded on the other side. The crossed are quickly headed towards her, threatening to do unspeakable things to her, but she decides to end things on her own terms and lets go. The group was now safe and were running towards the forest, while the crossed remained behind, unable to follow them or satisfy their urges. The journey towards Alaska continues as the group passes a long tunnel and arrives on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. At first, the group only moved during the night to avoid getting spotted, but ever since it started to snow, they've been moving during daytime. They couldn't help but notice how beautiful the mountains looked, especially after being covered with a fresh coat of snow. Kittrick wasn't looking too good. He wasn't eating properly and had lost his will to live. Jeff wasn't looking too good either, but he kept pushing, staying close to the group and being useful. The group takes cover in an abandoned bus, while a snow blizzard covered the entire scene. Stan hits on Cindy, remarking that even though she tries to be tough and keep her son and the group safe, she can't keep her ice woman thing forever. It's not like they're characters in a movie. No one expects her to be like this all the time, and one day he's gonna make her smile. After she killed the deputy, she assumed a leadership position and the people wanted to follow her lead. One of the younger men from the group had a hard time grasping the severity of the situation and thought the world would eventually get back to normal. Stan and Thomas wander into the forest to take a piss and Thomas confesses he is actually gay. Stan remarks that for a gay guy, he doesn't dress very well. Cindy made it clear that if they decide to follow her lead, she calls all the shots, and if they refuse to listen, they are free to be on their own. Stan gave the young guy a rifle to feel safer, but he shot himself that same night. In the present, the group finds it funny that they survived the apocalypse only to get eaten by killer cannibals. Thomas makes a joke about Stan wanting to eat Cindy out, which puts Kelly in a good mood. The group spends the night at the base of a mountain, but they don't start a fire, fearing that someone might see the smoke and attack them in their sleep. Stan approaches Cindy, who was showing the beautiful view to her son. Luckily, a pack of wolves were close by, and they couldn't help but be amazed how beautiful they looked. No matter what happens to humanity, life finds a way to keep going. The group continues the journey to Alaska, but they see a group of the Crossed, so they hide in the forest. The infected were actually hunting someone, one of their own people. They scalp him using a machete, and his body falls right next to Stan. He nearly panics and makes a noise, giving away their location, but luckily he was able to hold it in. They waited at least an hour for the Crossed to move along before they left the hideout. Brett is the newest member of the group, and he makes fun of Stan, saying he should have seen his own reaction when the body dropped next to him. Stan thinks he is one of the biggest pricks and doesn't like him very much, but when he joined the group, he brought plenty of supplies and weapons, so they gladly took him in. When the whole thing started, Kittrick was enjoying a beautiful day at the beach with his wife and 2 boys. Suddenly, a group of infected people came out from nowhere and attacked his family, decapitating his wife. They then did the same thing to his children and tried to kill him as well, but luckily he was able to swim underwater and get away. Seeing his entire family butchered got to him, and Kittrick hasn't been the same ever since that day. Later at night, the group has an argument about the route they want to take to Alaska, and Stan gets into a heated argument with Brett. Cindy tells him to calm down and asks him to go outside and keep guard while they continue talking. Outside, he finds an abandoned dog who gets the courage to approach him. Stan wants to keep him, but Cindy says that if he wants to feed him, it comes out of his rations. The group gathers around and Jeff says he needs to get something off his chest. He wasn't a very good person before the apocalypse started. He used to lure young men into his home, torture them until they were done, and then cut them into pieces and bury them under his house. He likes his new friends and feels comfortable to share this secret with them, but the group is now scared of him and doesn't know what to do. In the morning, Kittrick takes him for a walk into the forest, but only he came back. The group decides to cross the Nevada desert and continue their journey to Alaska. A group of Crossed was walking through the desert valleys acting crazy and cursing like madmen. It was the same people that the group encountered 2 months ago when they barely escaped a small town. The group had made camp at a gas station and couldn't believe the Crossed had been following them for the past 2 months. How are they able to be this organized? For the moment, it doesn't matter anyway. They need to get away from them as far as possible before they leave the valley. Cindy suggests traveling on the road, that way they can avoid being tracked in the dirt. The Crossed find the gas station and light it on fire, throwing one of their own into the fire and cooking him. One of them has extremely large ears and he is able to hear the group from very far away. Brett thinks they might have some kind of special powers. This stuff isn't normal, but Stan is skeptical. Cindy thinks that any good tracker could have sniffed their trail and followed them all the way to Nevada. The group finds a river and the people stop to stockpile on water, while Brett goes on the other side to keep watch. Suddenly something spooks him and he jumps into the water, followed by someone firing bullets at the group in the middle of the river. The Crossed have caught up with them and were trying to take them out from a distance. During the desperate attempt to get away, Patrick gets swept away by the current and dragged down the river. It was impossible to get to him in the water, so the group goes back on shore to follow him down the riverbank. Brett reunites with the group and says he nearly got killed earlier. They need to get as far away from there as possible. He dropped his radio while trying to get away and the Crossed picked it up. They claim they caught Patrick and tortured him, asking them to surrender, otherwise they're going to kill him. Kittrick picks up the radio and calls their bluff, asking them to let him talk to the young boy. Out of nowhere, a couple of Crossed make it on the other side of the river and Kittrick wants to take them out. It's been a long time coming and the group couldn't wait to fight back, but something was wrong. The Crossed didn't come after them, they were running after someone. The group quickly takes them out, being better armed with rifles and pistols, as opposed to knives and sticks. But something was wrong. The person they were chasing was Patrick, but it was too late. He was already turned into one of them, and Cindy did the only thing she could do and blew his brains out. Everyone was in shock. Cindy had just killed her own son. But there's no going back now, they needed to keep moving. The journey to Alaska continues and not even rain or thunder could stop the group from pushing forward. Thomas makes a bad joke of not needing to watch their language anymore since Patrick is now dead. They find an abandoned army helicopter, crashed into the nearby rocks and take cover inside. Brett and Stan get into another heated argument, but Kittrick warns them to be careful because one of the rifles has an active rocket launcher that could destroy all of them. While everyone falls asleep, Stan finds the journal of one of the soldiers and begins reading it. A group of scientists were assigned to decommission 2 nuclear power plants, just in case they fell into the wrong hands. The soldiers were tasked with keeping them safe, and they did just that, encountering the Crossed at both of the plants. Luckily, their attacks weren't coordinated, and they were easily dealt with, allowing the scientists to finish their jobs. When the mission was over, the soldiers had one final task left to do: take them out as well. They couldn't risk leaving them alive. If they turned into Crossed, they could reopen the reactors or someone could force them to do it. While returning to base, the helicopter ran into a devastating storm and crashed into the nearby rocks. The soldier broke both of his legs and the others were forced to leave him behind. He knew there was nobody coming back for him. The entire country had turned to chaos. When everything started, even the president's airplane blew up somewhere over Oklahoma. In the end, the soldier wondered if he'd been a good soldier, hoping that at least he was a good husband to his wife and a good father to his son. The next day, the group has breakfast together, while Cindy kept her distance as usual. She'd been sleeping and eating alone ever since her kid was killed, and didn't talk to anyone. Brett was being an asshole once again and kicks the dog after it was sniffing around his food. Stan finally has enough and shoots him point blank using his pistol, ending him on the spot. He then goes to talk to Cindy, saying that he thinks it might be a good idea for them to go back and bury her son. He's been reading the soldier's journal, remarking that they're slowly becoming inhumane, doing horrible things they never thought they'd do. But what separates them from the Crossed is feeling remorse, the same remorse the soldier felt right before he took his own life. Stan believes that by burying Patrick, Cindy will be able to move on and find the will to live again. Eventually, the group separates, agreeing to meet later at specific locations. Stan says goodbye to Thomas, not knowing if they will ever see each other again, wishing themselves good luck. They make it back and Stan sees Patrick's body lying in the dirt, surrounded by the other Crossed. He wraps his body in a blanket and gives him to Cindy, who knew what had to be done. She lays him to rest and mourns his death for a few minutes, and then decides to continue living. She got married to an asshole who used to beat her up, but she eventually summoned the courage to leave and take her son with her. Her grandfather taught her how to use guns, a skill that came in handy in the current situation. The two of them take refuge in an abandoned church, while remembering what they had to do a while back. They ended those kids because it was easy on them, because alone they'd probably be taken by the Crossed. It was easier on their group as well, since they didn't have to worry about a bunch of 8-year-olds. But was it the right call? It's already been a month since the group separated, and the others continue the journey to Alaska. Kittrick says they are being followed, most likely by the same Crossed they encountered earlier. He wants to stay behind and face them, because he doesn't want to keep living without his family anymore. The Crossed begin firing and hit him straight in the abdomen, but he isn't killed and fires back. Stan and Cindy were nearby and heard the gunshots, but they had no idea where they were coming from. Kittrick is unable to defend himself anymore, and one of them cuts off his hand. One of them wants to violate him, but the bigger guy doesn't allow it. A confrontation erupts between them and the bigger guy kills his own. The other two were desperately trying to get away, but Kelly was blind and they couldn't move fast enough. They are ambushed by the big guy, who slaps Thomas with a horse, but he wasn't beaten just yet. He summons his strength and jumps at his throat, biting the big guy on his neck and rupturing his artery. Together with Kelly, they are able to kill him, but things were far from over. Thomas was beginning to change into one of them. He had crossed blood all over his face. Stan watched everything from a distance, but there was nothing they could do in time. They were simply too far away. However, Cindy decides to stop running and wants to face them head on, determined to end it once and for all. They prepare an ambush, using the tall grass as cover while they mount an attack. One by one, they take out the remaining Crossed, who rely on their animal instincts rather than common sense. They represented the worst humanity had to offer: every brute, every sadist, every torturer, every serial murderer, tyrant, holy killer, and every terrorist and bomber. Stan kills the last one by blowing his brains out, and then there was silence. The journey to Alaska was far from over, but at least now they won't have to worry about being followed. While going into the sunset, Cindy finally decides to trust him and grabs his hand.